Hello. In this lesson, we are going to introduce to you your very first verb tense. Now, you know by now that verbs are really important words in sentences. Every sentence in English needs at least one verb. And verbs have a couple of really important jobs. You know that there's already two basic kinds of verbs. There's action verbs and there's being verbs. But another job that a verb has in a sentence is to tell us the time. And when we talk about time as a verb idea, we use this word tense. And there are 12 verb tenses in English. And you will be learning those throughout our program, but today, in this lesson, you are going to learn your very first verb tense, and that is the simple past. Why are we starting with the simple past? Well, if you're like most people, most of the time in which you are speaking, you're usually telling people about things that already happened during your day. This verb tense, the simple past, is commonly referred to or commonly called the storytelling verb. The simple past tells you about things that happened and were finished in the past. So if you ever use the simple past, you're telling people that this happened in the past, it happened in a time before now, and whatever it is I'm telling you about, it's over. So the simple past tells about a completed idea or a completed action in the past. Now, there are three ways in which we construct the simple past, or we form the simple past for regular verbs. That's important because the simple past is also a really important verb tense, because this is the verb tense in which we learn to identify regular verbs and irregular verbs. We're going to teach you more on that later, okay? Today, we're just looking at ways to construct or ways to form a simple past tense in regular verbs. The easy way to identify regular verbs in the simple past, they will always end with these two letters, ed. There are no exceptions to a regular verb, but there are different ways in which we get to ed, okay? And there might be other rules, but the last two letters are always the same, ed. So you can see some examples on the board. Every word, every verb on the board in blue is a regular verb, because all of them end in ed in the simple past tense. So let's take the verb play. In order to say that I played a game with a friend yesterday, I just add ed to the word play. So play becomes played. I watched a movie with my family last night. So watch becomes watched. Now, this is getting a little nitpicky, but if you notice the difference in sound, played versus watched, sometimes the ed at the end of a word will sound like the letter T. That is something we're not going to go into a lot of detail, but it is something you want to take note of if you really want to practice your spoken fluency. You want to pay attention to how the ed sounds at the end of words. Usually, it's played, loved, cried, tried, but then we have some tricky ones like watched. So, pay attention to that. Otherwise, if it ends in E, okay, if the word ends in E, some teachers will tell you to drop the E and then add ed. I don't think that's necessarily that important as long as you know that it ends in ed, okay, if it's a regular verb. So love becomes loved. What if the word ends in Y as the only vowel in the word, or the only vowel sort of at the end of the word? This rule is a little different See, here, play ends in Y, but the vowel sound is a very long sound, and it's AY, so there we can add ED. For words like cry and try, the rule is we drop the Y, we take the Y away, and we add IED. So cry becomes cried. Try becomes tried. Okay? So when you, especially with these little three-letter words are very common, IED is the rule, okay? Drop the Y, add IED. There's one last little rule you need to remember when making regular verbs simple past, and that is if the vowel is a short vowel, and again, this usually happens with these little three-letter words, you have to double up the last consonant. The rule is if there's one consonant after a short vowel sound, you have to double it. So here you're adding one of the last consonant and then ED. So hop becomes hopped. Hope becomes hoped. If we didn't if we didn't add another P here, then these two words would look the same, and then I would never know. I would be reading and I would go, wait, is this hopped or hoped? So that's the reason for this rule, because we get a lot of these examples. Here's a good example of the mistake that I might often see as a teacher. Tap becomes taped. And these are totally different words. Tapped. That should be TAPPED. So I should have two P's in order to change tap into the simple past. Now remember, in our next lesson, we're going to be learning about irregular verbs, and that's still the simple past. But for now, let's review.
Simple past tense. What is the simple past tense also known as? It is also known as the storytelling verb. What does the simple past tell you? It tells you about things that happened and were finished in the past. Why is the simple past verb tense important? We can use the simple past to identify regular verbs and irregular verbs. What is an easy way to identify regular verbs with the simple past tense? An easy way to identify regular verbs in the simple past tense is that they end with ed. What do we do if the verb ends with a y as the only vowel in the word for the simple past tense? We drop the y and replace it with ied. Example: try, tried. What do we have to do if the verb has a short vowel in the simple past tense? If the vowel is a short vowel, we have to double up the last consonant. Example: hop, hopped.